Should Medellín get a congestion charge to sort out the insane traffic here? I actually mentioned this to one of my Paisa friends a few weeks ago, and he said there's no way in hell they do that. They would never implement it. There would be way too much pushback. And then I saw in an article, it is one of the methods that they are looking at in order to sort out the traffic problem. Because personally, me being a Brit coming from London, what's the alternative? They currently have a Pico y Placa system here and in Bogota and in other cities in Colombia as well, but it doesn't really seem to solve the problem. At almost all times of the day, there's just insane traffic here in Medellin, and honestly, the roads are just not designed for the amount of people, buses, cars, motos, etc. as there are in the city now. Unlike Bogota, which has 5 lanes of traffic on the highways on each way, and there's a lot more space, it's super flat as well, there's just not the space to accommodate 1.4 million cars in Medellin. And as you guys know, I've said this before, motorbike usage in the last 20 years is up like 600%. So I really don't see an alternative method in order to sort out the problem. It could mean people need to pay a small fee if they want to drive into the main parts of the city, etc. But I'm by no means an expert. I'm not in politics. I'm not in traffic. I'm not in construction. I have no idea really what the intricate details are around the problem. All I do know is every year that goes by, more people buy cars, less people use public transport, motorbikes are more popular. The motorbike thing is interesting because it's a little bit of a catch-22, because as the traffic gets worse in Medellin, people start to use cars less because there's too much traffic, and they start to use motos more. So there's just way more motos because people use that as a preferred method of transport. And also, as a city gets richer, one of the most prosperous cities in Colombia, people tend to shun public transport and they tend to use private transport. I mean, I don't speak to too many local paisas who use the metro a lot, for example. I know a lot of people do use the metro, but I think its usage is kind of like underused. Again, I haven't confirmed that with data or anything, but I know the new metro part in La Ochenta, I think it is in Belén and Laureles, etc., will help that. But yeah, something has to give. I'll just give you a quick example right now. So I'm in a residential street. It is 10:30 in the morning on a Thursday, and there's not non-stop traffic along this little residential road, but there is a steady stream of just cars, motorbikes, trucks, vans, everything. And so yeah, there's just like a lot of activity. And I think this is the problem that every big city has. I'm from London. We have a congestion charge in London, and when it was announced, there was uproar. People were saying, how can you charge people for just driving into the city, etc. And London is one of the most congested cities still in the world, even with that congestion charge. Can you just imagine what London would be like without the congestion charge? If everyone was driving in their car into work, into central London, into anywhere in London, just in their car driving around with no congestion charge, no means of which to kind of reduce that, the whole city would be one big traffic jam like 20 hours a day. Only from like midnight until 4 a.m. it would be relatively quiet. Every other hour it would just be insane and nothing would get done. Ambulances wouldn't be able to get around, fire engines wouldn't be able to get around, the police wouldn't be able to respond to anything. It's not just a case of residents going, ooh, I don't like traffic, or there needs to be less of it. It's like roads need to be relatively empty for the city to function. And Medellin will soon have this problem as well, whereby the traffic will be so bad and the roads will just be congested with cars, with one person sat in them, taking up all of that space. Yeah, meaning that like police can't get around, fire engines can't get around, construction projects are just put on hold because like, how can the deliveries for like the construction of these buildings, for example, get delivered if all of this road would be just like one big traffic jam? And you know what's interesting? There is a cultural element of it as well. There's a big car culture here in Colombia and in Latin America as well, where people just drive everywhere. So in my building, I'm in La Frontera, it's a fairly walkable part of the city. In my building, there are 12 apartments, right? So I have 11 other neighbors. I rarely see my neighbors leaving the front gate on foot. They always drive in their car. They're always using the parqueadero. I rarely see them walking out the front door on their own 2 feet. They're coming and going multiple times a day, right? You know, a few times a day, and they can't always be making long trips whenever they come and leave the building, right? So some of those short trips that my neighbors are doing when they come and leave the apartment could be done on foot, and it's definitely a cultural thing. They're probably just driving 5 minutes down the road to the gym where they could just walk for 10-15 minutes. And so it's a cultural thing as well. People like having nice cars, fancy cars. They do it as a showy off thing. Dare I say it, I might get a little bit of stick for this, some Colombians are a little bit lazy. They don't want to walk. Like, your gym is 15 minutes away and they just rather drive. And so yeah, they get in their car, they're taking up a lot of traffic, and the congestion charge would kind of put an end to this. It would make people either pay up and pay the fee, or they just would walk instead. And you know, Medellin is relatively walkable. It's not the most walkable city I've ever been in, but it's fairly walkable, this part of town, right? It's not that hilly, but people just love using their cars. People love driving to the supermarket, loading the car up and everything. Yeah, I think this really would help to tackle the problem of the car culture here in Medellin Colombia. Because on the face of it, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But if you have 4.5 million people getting in their car just to drive 5 minutes to the Euro supermarket to pick up a packet of crisps, or they're driving 3 minutes down the road to the gym where they could just walk 10 minutes, then the whole city is just going to be a standstill. The city is just not going to function. It's not going to be a nice city to live in if every single road is just non-stop traffic. There's also the pollution element as well, right? More cars, more buses, more motos, more everything. It's just more pollution. The pollution can't escape because we're in the valley of Aburra. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Aburra. And so, yeah, I think the Pico y Placa thing probably does work a little bit. It takes some pressure off the roads, but I think they're going to have to either put the Pico y Placa on steroids and massively bump that up, or introduce some sort of congestion charge, which people would really hate, honestly. When it was implemented in London, people really pushed back against it. They said it's invading their liberty, their rights and everything. And I completely agree with that. But the alternative cannot just be for Medellin to just be one big traffic jam. They can't build more roads either. Like Avenida Poblado, Avenida Las Vegas, the Autopista, these are maxed out. There's no more room to like create another lane or create another highway or do anything like this. So they need to find ways of reducing congestion and traffic in the city. And the congestion charge is a relatively tried and proven method in order to do that. And Paisas, historically very conservative, very right-wing leaning, are going to hate that. The people who drive 5 minutes down the road to a Euro supermarket to pick up a packet of crisps in their Ford Raptor, you know, I've actually seen this happen. People drive everywhere here. It is a bit ridiculous. Hopefully it would go some way to tackling this issue and kind of putting an end to the insane car culture there is here. Because if you actually take a closer look, any of you guys live in Medellin or you're visiting, the majority of big cars you see on the road or cars driving around, there's one person in it. The car has 5 seats, takes up a lot of space on the road, a lot of traffic, etc. And there's always just one person in that car, right? There's never a full car. You know, when I leave the gym in the morning after I finish my swimming lesson at around 6:45, 7 a.m., there is a queue of cars looking to enter the car park in the gym, and every single car has one person in it. And I bet you some of these people will live 10-minute walk away from the gym. And yeah, some of them will be going to work afterwards. Some of them will maybe have a legit reason to be using up a whole car just to go to the gym. But knowing what I know from my neighbors, from other people I speak to, etc., the car culture here, how they like, you know, getting in their car, driving around, like showing off a little bit. Some of these people do not need to drive to the gym. They could walk. And so, yeah, it would be unpopular, but I think the congestion charge is a little bit of a winner to help tackle the traffic problem here in Medellin. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Interested to hear your thoughts. If you're a local Paisa, let me know what you think about that, if they would implement a congestion charge. And if you're a tourist here or just a foreigner visiting, what's the traffic like? What's your experience with the traffic? Because I know that in the 2 years that I've been visiting Colombia, the traffic has got significantly worse since. So yeah, interested to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next video.